Jesus said, there was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen, and who feasted sumptuously every day. And at his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who longed to satisfy his hunger with what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs would come and lick his sores. The poor man died and was carried away by the angels to be with Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where he was being tormented, he looked up and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus by his side. He called out, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in agony in these flames. But Abraham said, Child, remember that during your lifetime you received your good things, and Lazarus in like manner evil things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. Besides all this, between you and us is a great chasm that has been fixed, so that those who might want to pass from here to you cannot do so, and no one can cross from us to there, from there to us. He said, Then, Father, I beg you to send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may warn them, so that they may not come into this place of torment. Abraham replied, They have Moses and the prophets. They should listen to them. He said, No, Father Abraham, but if someone goes to them from the dead, they will repent. He said to him, If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead. The gospel of the Lord. I bring the children forward. Don't trip over anything. Let me get this. Let me actually move this forward real quick. As I took it over. So, we're going to do that in a minute too. We didn't get Noisy Sunday in the bulletin, so if you don't have it, it's okay. But for those who do have it, I'm not sure, honey. We'll find it another time. Listen, right now, I'm not worried about it. Focus. So we're going to take up an offering, right? But in 1 Timothy, the reading that we just read, it said something about money. Did anybody catch that thing that it said about money?
Yeah. So
Money's
this
what?
one guy was he had a bunch of money, and then Lazarus had 0 money.
Yeah, actually, no, I was talking about the Timothy text, but you're right. The rich man and Lazarus, the rich man never takes care of Lazarus, does it? And he doesn't even give him anything at all. But we're gonna ask for money, but you know what it said? Money is the root of all evil. Yeah, and actually the translation is all sorts of evil. Some translations say all evil, but it's the root of evil. So we're gonna collect money at a church. Is that a good idea? Is it money or is it you agree, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. So are all rich people evil? No, I mean there's rich people that are very good, right? Well, that's good. Well, what about, are poor people all good? No. Okay, but are poor people all good? No. So they are, what they all are, the rich and the poor, they are all saints and sinners. They all have moments when they're being very good, and they all have times when they're being very bad. Kind of like You're not putting fingers. I'm talking about all of us. No, stop pointing to it. I'm talking about all of them, but it's the love money, right? So what if, we did not tell the congregation what we're gonna do with the money that we're collecting. Are we just like buying you guys tuition with the money we're collecting? No. That would be the love of money if we were buying them something. But what did we do with the love with the money? We made the decision the other day, we didn't announce it. Yeah, but specifically, there was something, and you two do this at home. Well, we talked about, but there was something that the ELCA World Hunger does that helps creation and also helps other people because they can raise, they can make some money off of this product that they make. And the beehives. So we're gonna give towards bees this year. So that's where our money's gonna go. And we're gonna remember that it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. But when we are blessed with money and we use it to do good things in God's name, that is a good use of money, right? It's when we focus on money and we only love that, and we don't love other people, or we don't show mercy to other people, that we're in trouble, right? And if we're only using our money for ourselves. So we are gonna go and we are gonna collect some money and make some noise, with Noisy Sunday. Sorry, we didn't give you the heads up. I did forget about it until like yesterday. And then I remembered it. Right. You've got some more over there too. If you pass it, let them just pick up and pass it for you. Without. They're looking. I think right here in the front pew here. I think he's got one. There you go. All right. Do we have any noise? Let's hear. Let's see. Now listen, what I want you to remember always is if you put money before God, or anything before God, that's what's gonna get us into trouble. So we put God first, and when we have money, we use it for something that God would want us to do with it. Okay, leave the money in the here. Listen, you know, you don't have to call him on the phone. Grace and peace to you from our Lord and Savior Jesus the Christ. You can walk through gates. I know that this doesn't sound like a profound statement, but I want you to remember that you can walk through gates. You can go, if they're your gates, you can go out on the other side. If they're not your gates, you probably shouldn't go into the gate unless you're invited. You know, that is never a good idea. But as long as the gates are your gates, you can walk outside. You don't have to stay inside the gates, inside the fence. And I don't just mean the literal gates, although some of you have little gates at your homes too. I mean, anytime we put up gates, or if we're inside our homes so much that we forget the neighbors that are out and about among us. we can open up the door and go outside. It's the same concept. They're not security fences. Maybe some of yours are, but most of ours aren't security fences, and even if they are, they're on our side, so we can walk through them. And they're not these great chasms that we hear about at the end of the parable. They are meant to be walked through, and not just the physical gates, not just those literal ones, but the other gates that we put up that separate us from our neighbors, that separate us from other people. Every time we put up a gate around ourselves, we can and we should go through it. And we should be paying attention to what's on the other side of that gate. And I say this because many times we're not really knowing what's happening outside of those gates. At least that's what I think is happening for the rich man and Lazarus. Lazarus is there every day on the outside of the rich man's gate. But the rich man isn't necessarily going through the gate. He isn't necessarily, he might walk through the gate, but he's definitely not paying attention to what's right on the other side of his gate. A man who is begging for food, a man who just needs some mercy, a man who obviously is suffering, and he obviously has an abundance. I mean, the rich man is having feasts every day. He's always having people over. He's always having an abundance of food. There's probably many times when he could have fed Lazarus, probably to more than Lazarus could have eaten. And he doesn't. And I believe part of it is he simply doesn't see because he stays within his gate. And I say that because I have a problem myself. Sometimes even when we know somebody's name, and apparently the rich man knows Lazarus' name, because at the end of the parable, when he's on the other side of the chasm and Lazarus is on the good side, he knows him by name to ask him to just come dip his finger in the water, right? So it's not that he's not aware of him at all, but he's put a gate up between him and Lazarus, the rich and the poor. So he doesn't want to go through there. He doesn't want to get to know him too well. He doesn't want to do anything for him. He doesn't want to really interact with him. And our society actually pretty much teaches us, stay on your side of the gate and don't go out there and get to know those other people. I mean, you get to know them if they are working with you, if they are in a specific group with you, if they have the same type of, are in the same type of situation as you. But when they're different from us, we often put up a lot of gates. And sometimes even when they're an awful lot the same as us, we put up gates. And if you don't believe me, think about how many people, how many of your direct next door neighbors or just within your block that you really know. I can tell you that I probably know more than anybody else in my household, only because I walk a dog. And let's face it, we make snap judgments about people all the time. And somebody who's walking a friendly dog is more approachable than somebody who's just walking or jogging and or working in their yard. And somebody who's a different ethnicity than us, we're a little bit more reluctant to open our mouths and talk to them because we're not quite sure. Or somebody who seems to live a lot different lifestyle from us. Either they have the big, huge house, or they're living in what looks like it's going to fall down around them. And we start to think to ourselves, not the same as us. So we're not quite sure if we're going to open up those doors and get to know them. And even when we get to know them, how well do we know them? I mean, I know a lot of our neighbors by first name, but I can't tell you their last names. I was going to say Thelma can tell you, but she's not here today. But she can tell you the last names of most of those neighbors that I'm not sure their last names. And she can tell you a lot more about them than I can too, because she's very good at that. But a lot of us close off those gates. So much so that one of my confessions is during COVID, well, COVID's still going on, but during some of the worst of COVID, I have a woman in our neighborhood who I talk to about once a week, sometimes twice a week, and I know her dog by name, and I finally know her first name, and I see her walking her dog, and Romulus, our dog, interacts with her dog all the time, and yet, until I talk to other neighbors who also know the neighborhood better than I do, who are sitting here in the pews, I did not know that she had lost her husband to COVID. Now, since I've done a little bit better at talking to her a little bit more, but there's still many things that I don't know about my own neighbors. And I certainly don't know how it is that I can help them best if I'm not even sure what their needs are. And I think that's one of the greatest sins that the rich man is exhibiting. I mean, he's exhibiting a lot of sins. He's exhibiting greed, but he also is just turning a blind eye to this man. He doesn't know anything about Lazarus other than he has sores and he sits by his gate and he does nothing for him. He doesn't know if Lazarus was hurt in an accident and can't work. He doesn't know if, oh, Lazarus' family has died. And in today's terms, he's just so depressed that he can't get up and do anything. We have no idea. We don't know why Lazarus is the poor man that he is. All we know is that he sits there day after day, and the rich man doesn't interact with him at all. And all I know is that there are many people that I see, and not just out in the neighborhood, even in our pews, we see each other. We get to talk to each other, but sometimes we don't know people's greatest needs. And maybe it isn't a financial need, although some of our neighbors might have a financial need. They might be in a place where they could use some extra food or they could use some extra help with something. But many of them probably just need to talk to somebody. There are many neighbors who are lonely and would just love to get to know somebody else and be able to share some time with them and maybe some prayers. There are others who might have medical needs that they can't get out often, and they might look like they're fine because when you see them, they're getting out and they're walking about and they're doing stuff, but other days they might be bedridden and not be able to get out and even get their basic groceries. There are many, many needs in the world, and many times, and different types of needs. And many times we don't know them because we simply have kept within our gates, whether it's literally or figuratively. And we've stayed to ourselves so much that we don't know what needs there are right around us. One of the greatest things that I got to do in ministry, one of the greatest gifts at Greensburg in ministry, was being able to have lunch with people in the community every week. It was a free lunch. And so many of them were very poor that came. Many of them had mental health issues. They had all sorts of things. And it was easy to go once or twice and just see them and feel like you had done something or helped serve and not really sit with them and talk with them. But I had to get out of my gate and make sure that I sat down with them and spent some time with them instead of just walking around and basically ignoring them or seeing them as a place to give. And I found some people who really had some major problems that we certainly couldn't have helped. And I found out some things about some of the other people that I certainly never wanted to know. But I also got to see people as whole people, not just as somebody who needed food. But I got to hear their stories. I got to end up finding out when somebody's father died and stopping over at a funeral home to visit, which meant the world to him that I would stop and take some time to do that. I had people that started to pray for me We had one lady who, when these girls were little, she would bring different gifts that she found, and they were treasures to her. She found this little something with frozen characters on it, a little bag that they had for a long time. She had this little rocking chair that we had from her. And these, I got to see them as whole people and not just as somebody who everybody else knew was a little eccentric walking around the streets of Greensboro. And one of the joys of being in ministry in general is I have the opportunity to come out and see you, visit with you, get to know more about you than just seeing you on a Sunday morning. And my prayer is that the rest of you will take that time and get to know some people who maybe you only know by name, who maybe you only see as somebody who's whatever category you put them in, a lot older than you, as the old lady who sits near you at church, or as the young person who can't sit still at church, or maybe they only see you as the person who always wears something particular to church, or the one who always gives them lots of money when they collect noisy Sunday offering, or the one who always is ushering, or the one who is always leading the Zoom, or whatever it is that we identify you as, because that's how you see each other. Or the neighbor who's always out weeding, or the neighbor who can never shovel their sidewalk, or the one neighbor who's always the first to get their sidewalk shoveled and cleared off. It's nice to spend some time getting to know those people, because that's how God sees them. And it's not our opportunity for them to see us the way God sees us as well. So my hope and my prayer is that you get out of your gates, that you walk through, that you see the people that are around you, because everyone is like Lazarus in some way. Everyone has some deep need. And all they often need is a little bit of hope, a little bit of help, a little bit of time, a little bit of your compassion. That's all Lazarus needed from the rich man, and the rich man never gave. And then in the end, there's a great chasm and they can't get through. So while you're able, go out. Don't let the Lazarus of this world be out around you without you being able to give some help. Get out of your gates. Get to know people by a little bit more than their first name, and help them to see Christ through you.